This is booming. I've got some great strategies on seller financing, creative financing for you today, and it is going to blow your mind. So sit tight, grab your pen and paper, because you're going to want to learn these 4 strategies to help you have successful creative financing deals. I know there are a lot of people out there on the internet telling you that you can buy businesses with no money down, and they're giving partial truths, half truths, partial stories, half stories, but really today you're going to get the whole story so that you can have success with your creative financing deals. And there are 4 things that I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to get comfortable and so that we can lock in. Put your seatbelts on because I'm going to try to go fast for you today, but I want you to get every bit of this information. Don't hesitate to rewind, back it up if you missed something, and always hit that subscribe button down below if you like what you are hearing, and I'm sure you will, because this is going to help you get your deals done. So you want to buy a business, you want to own a business, and you want to grow it successfully. So what are some things that you have to do? Well, there are 4 things I want to share with you today. And the first one is very simple. Know yourself. Because if you know yourself, then you know what you are going to be capable of securing when it comes to creative financing, or when it comes to financing in general. For instance, you go and you look at your credit score, for instance, and you see that your credit score isn't quite pleasing to you, but you really don't know what that means in the greater scheme of things. So you look at your credit score and maybe you have a 675 credit score, 675. And you're like, I don't know if I can buy this $3 million business with a 675 credit score. Well, you don't know. And I'm going to share that with you today. I'm going to tell you what you need to know. Incidentally, the SBA, for instance, even though we're talking about creative financing, the SBA does not actually have a listed or posted credit score requirement. Now, there are some lenders out there that will do an SBA loan for you if you have 600 credit score or better, but that's not most of them. So you're probably going to get turned down in a lot of places if you only have a 600 credit score. If you've got a 670, then just about every preferred lender out there will have a conversation with you and will actually lend you the money you need if the other things line up, like the collateral, like the target acquisition that you're looking to purchase, maybe the assets that you have, and then of course your plan and your strategy and your character. If you are doing SBA loans, they are not done by the SBA. Typically, they are done by lenders. And you want to find a preferred lender. And you're probably listening, you're saying, well, why are you talking about SBA loans if this is supposed to be about creative financing strategies? Well, let me just give you an inside tip. One of the most creative ways to buy a business with none of your own money down is actually through an SBA loan.
Whoa.
Now, I know alarms are going off in your head, your bells are going off, ding, ding, ding. Wait a minute. I've always heard that I need 20% down to get an SBA loan. Mark, you yourself have even said that you can get an SBA loan with 5% down. 5% or 20% is not 0. So Mark, what are you talking about when you say that I can use an SBA loan for creative financing and use it as a strategy to buy my business? Well, it's real simple. So here's how you can do an SBA loan with none of your own money. First, let me tell you about a customer of mine who actually had to put $140,000 down to buy their business. And they bought it pretty much right at the beginning of COVID. It was in March of 2020. This is so crazy. They had to put $140,000 down. But at the end of the day, do you know that they ended up getting paid $16,000 to do the deal? Well, how did they do that? Well, it's real simple. $140,000 is what they put into the deal. The SBA started an incentive at the beginning of COVID where they were going to pay your first 6 months of principal and interest payments. So they were going to make your first 6 payments. His payments happened to be $11,000 each. So the SBA basically gave him $66,000 just for doing the deal. Well, that still doesn't add up to him getting $16,000 back. Slow down. Here's what else happened. He was able to negotiate away some of the fees of his SBA loan.
I'm not gonna pay a lot for this muffler.
And in addition to that, that particular buyer, because he kept his staff, was able to secure a PPP loan for $90,000, which was forgiven rather quickly, within the same year actually. And so that forgiven PPP loan, the discounts that he negotiated for himself, the buyer actually walked away in the positive. So he actually got paid to buy that business. And it turned out to be a very profitable business, and it is still paying him till this day. Now, if you really want to get crazy, he got even more than that because he negotiated into his deal $200,000 of operating capital must be left in the business by the seller at the time of closing. So literally when the ink dried at the closing table, that buyer had $200,000 of operating capital that he could use to grow his business, pay his staff, pay himself back if that's what he wanted to do. And it was all there for him. And that is a creative financing strategy that he intended to use at the beginning. The free 6 months of payments, the PPP loan, those were all just extra bonuses. That was his payoff for being courageous. Incidentally, this was a buffet. And in the state that he was buying the buffet business in, the governor of the state outlawed buffets the day before closing. Now, I was the broker. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this deal is over. This is dead. The buyer courageously moved forward because he had faith in his ability to run this business. He had faith in the ability of his team to run this business, and ultimately it paid off in huge dividends. In reality, that buyer was walking away up $300,000 without even calculating the profits that the business earned in the first year, just because he was bold and he was creative. And he wasn't afraid of the SBA. So the first one is know yourself, know your credit score, know what your assets are, know what your experience is, know what you are bringing to the table, and know exactly how you're going to grow the target acquisition. Because these are things that a lender will ask you if you are going to have an SBA preferred lender involved in your deal. The next thing you want to do, other than knowing yourself, is you want to know your seller. You really want to know all the other parties involved, but know your seller. Because knowing your seller will help you craft an offer that is appealing to them. So if you show up at the table and your offer includes Super Bowl tickets for the seller for the next 5 years, and the seller doesn't like Super Bowl tickets, the seller likes brand new Broadway plays, then you have totally missed the mark if that seller is not a football fan or not a sports fan. And I use that as a simplified analogy, but there are things that sellers are interested in, and if you take the time to get to know them, you won't have to worry about missing it. And the way that you do that is at the beginning of the relationship, you get to know the sellers. Most of the mistakes that the buyers take into their deals when they're going to do a deal is they want the seller to get to know them. And they think that they need to tell the seller, the broker, and everybody involved, hey, I want to do a creative deal. I like doing deals with no money down. I hope you're okay with that. Well, that's off-putting to the seller. That scares the seller. It freaks the seller out because the seller knows that you know nothing about him or her, and the seller knows that you also have the most interest in yourself when you're talking about what you want from the deal. Well, the reality of it is, get to know that seller. Ask them about their hopes and their dreams. Ask them why they started this business in the first place. Ask them what they're going to do next. Ask them what their spouse wants to do next. Ask them what their values are about the things that are most important to them, because all of these things are going to help you land a deal when you do introduce the idea of creative financing. It will also help you figure out exactly what to offer. So know yourself, know your seller. The third thing that you absolutely positively want to remember is this: what got you to the negotiation table will not necessarily get you to the closing table. So knowing where the business is and knowing what the price is and knowing what terms you want to buy the business on, that's fine. Those are all great things to bring to the negotiation table. The thing that's going to get you to the closing table is something that you will need to find out, and you'll do this through conversational questions, not just grilling the seller about the top line and bottom line, the balance sheets and P&Ls and taxes. You want to get to know that seller, get to know that business, get to know their passion, and ask them where they think the upside is. Because if you are using funding from an outside source, like a financing partner or the SBA, they're going to want to know what the future upside is. That seller has really great insight about where that is. Just because they didn't do it or act on it or didn't have the resources, the brain power, the hard drive space to make those things happen to grow the business, doesn't mean that they can't grow the business. So what do we got? First, we got three things. Know yourself, know your seller, and then remember, what got you to the negotiation table will not necessarily get you to the closing table. And the last thing that you absolutely positively want to remember is don't cancel yourself out before you even get started. People call me all the time because I'm a business broker, and I say, well, what are you looking for? Well, they say, before I tell you what I'm looking for, I want you to know that I want to do a deal creatively, and I'm not interested in doing any SBA funding. Well, why don't you want to do SBA funding? Well, the reason I don't want to do any SBA funding is because I heard that nobody ever gets approved for those things. Well, that's crazy. Drop your baggage, forget about it, and learn what's available to you. One of the things I'm going to do with you today is I'm going to send you to a couple of resources. SBA.gov, that is a great resource. One, they'll tell you about the preferred lenders that exist in your area. A preferred SBA lender means that that lender is preferred by the SBA. They can do your entire deal from soup to nuts in-house. They don't have to send every document to the SBA for approval. That's good. That means your deal is being looked at and approved by humans. Establish some relationships with preferred lenders in your areas so that when you have a deal, you can take it to that preferred lender and you can actually watch your deal get done because they know you, they understand you, you know them, and you understand them. And that is why it is so important for you to remember these 4 things when you go into your deal. You can do this creative financing thing. In future episodes, subscribe if you like what you're hearing. I will give you specifics on each individual different type of creative financing that's available to you. In the meantime, get to SBA.gov, learn about what is there for you. You will be blown away. Use score.org, that's SCORE.org, and learn what you need to grow and scale a business. Let go of the idea that there's some magic out there that you don't have access to. Everything that you need exists. The power is totally in your hand. Thanks for joining me on Business is Booming. Like and subscribe. And if you like this video, there's a video right there that you can watch next that will blow your mind. Thanks again for joining me. We'll see you next time on Business is Booming.